Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show, my weekly showcase of thought leadership in the Internet of Things. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm the Global IoT Evangelist for SAP, and now, on with the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm a VP for IoT at SAP, and with me on the show today I have Marty Grover. Marty, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Marty Gruber. I work for Caterpillar in the Building Construction Products business unit. And our headquarters are out of Cary, North Carolina, and have an interesting role. I have a made-up name for myself. I got this new job for this program we're doing, Live Factory, where we're making smart factories in our retail products. And so I made my name up Operational Technology Leader, because I really wanted to focus on the operational technology and kind of think differently with the IT-OT merge in what we're doing in our factory. So
nice.
That's who I am.
And just for anyone who may be unaware, Marty, Caterpillar are?
Yeah, Caterpillar is a Fortune 50 company. We're the largest mining and construction equipment builder in the world. We've been around for over 90 years. And we're in most of the major markets for industrial equipment, from energy and transportation to large mining to building construction and power generation.
Okay. Now, Marty, you guys have multiple factories throughout the world. I think it's 9, if I remember correctly, from what you were talking about in Frankfurt at our Leonardo event. And you've gone down this Live Factory initiative. Can you tell us a little bit about the thinking behind the Live Factory initiative? Why you decided to go with it, and what is it in fact?
Well, one thing we know for sure, regardless of what your industry is, if you're not thinking retail, you're probably going to miss some opportunities going forward in your market. So we realized our product is smaller products, under 100 horsepower, more of you'll see in small construction, single unit, 2 unit fleets. So we had to start thinking about things differently on the retail side. And in order to support an e-commerce retail side, we knew we were going to have better data in our factories, but also we need improved operational excellence in our factories. So as we developed our retail strategy, we started looking, how are we going to improve our outputs in our factories, improve our quality, safety, all those things that you need to do in manufacturing, but also create a supply chain that has the ability to promise. And that's a really hard thing to do for e-commerce. And in industrial complexes, it's very hard. You're just not connected that way through your supply chain. So we kind of have 3 things we're trying to do. 1, operational excellence, get better in our factories. Codify what we're doing with lean in using digital capabilities. 2, we want to be able to improve our economic outputs, so we know we've got to get more productive in our factories and reduce the inventory, get more automotive-like. And then 3, really enable that digital thread for our e-commerce.
Okay. And you talked as well in Frankfurt about empowering your employees, which I thought was a very noble aim. Can you tell me a little bit about the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so on my part, I'm a little selfish on that. I was a factory manager before. I've used SAP. I'm retired Navy, and I used SAP in the Navy, and then I used it at Caterpillar. And one thing I know is being a factory manager and being an operations manager in a factory, it's so hard to do what you do without having that live data. And I just got used to that in the military. Maybe I was spoiled a little bit. And so I've tried to bring that in. And what I've seen is I know that if you give the right data to the people at the lowest level, they can run the business for you. And we've seen that so much in some of our projects, where now the people at the operational level have clarity in what their job is. They can see their results, and they really like being part of that. And then I think the other piece about empowering your employees, if you look at the demographics and the average age in manufacturing now, we went from over 50 in the last 4 years to down under 40. So those people that are in those age groups are digital natives, and they're used to having data in their hands, and it's frustrating for them not to have it. So if we're going to retain the best and brightest in manufacturing, we're going to have that data at their fingertips, that live data, and let them use it. And what we've seen is some of our engineers just having the data There, the live data available. They've just made outstanding improvements in our efficiencies and our throughput in our factories using the same assets. And that's really what we're looking for, that improvement, but also the engagement. So that's how we're empowering them.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy I used to use on that before, particularly for the likes of younger people coming into factories and not having access to data, is, putting them in a plant. It's like, putting a telephone on an office worker's desk with a lock on the dial. If you can remember back to phones with dials, and expecting them to be able to do their job, it's crazy. It's crazy. So no, that's a tremendous initiative. I love the aim. It's really, really important. And it's really important for
that's the only
retention.
way we're going to do better.
It's important, I think, not just for productivity, but for retention as well.
Yeah, I agree, because as we're seeing our economy upticks, it's going to get harder. I think there's going to be a serious fight for talent. I see it coming. And, Caterpillar, one thing good about Caterpillar, people love Caterpillar. You can go any place around the world, and I'm always amazed. I've been in the Middle East, I've been all over Europe, and everywhere you go, you see Caterpillar. So people really identify with the brand, and people are proud to work for Caterpillar. It's been a tough 4 years for us, but if we can provide the right environment for them, I think it's a good place to work. And I think this is another piece of it that just attracts people, having this kind of data available.
Okay. The whole idea of moving to the cloud, I can see some pushback from some people on that. What's your take on the movement to the cloud, and why do you think it's important?
Well, if you've ever had experience working with the SAP environment in on-premise infrastructure, it's very painful, tedious. You can't get the updates as soon as you want. You do big releases once a year because it's so painful. And to me, I've pushed for this live factory. There's 2 of the projects that we have, 3 of them actually: digital boardroom, digital manufacturing insights, and vehicle insights, that are all cloud-based products. And we're the first ones to use these in the corporation like this. And for me, especially being in a separate business unit, it makes it much easier, one, to develop. Development's much faster. You're going to get faster development cycles. You're going to get the updates as part of what SAP does, which is exciting to me. And then once you're in the cloud, you really reduce, although people will say it costs more, but yes, because you're half pregnant, because you still have on-premise. But for me, I believe we can break out from our organizations and have our own private cloud, but still have the same look and feel as the rest of the corporation. I think that's a powerful piece, because now I kind of control my own destiny, and I can own more of the results that way, and keep it more vanilla. We don't need to be complicating SAP by creating custom codes in it and things like that. We need to work with, and this is what we're doing, working with SAP to build it into the product, so we don't have all this customization. So that was the other part of going into the cloud, is co-innovating with SAP and developing the product with them on the fly.
Nice. And the digital boardroom you mentioned, can you explain, first of all, what that is and why it's useful to Caterpillar?
Yeah, that's probably my last project. I've got to get in place with a pilot, but we know what we want to do with it. The idea behind digital boardroom, to me, we've learned a lot about SAP, and what SAP did in our factories was took all the silos from supply chain and transportation and manufacturing and quality and all those things that were kind of siloed before. And once you get into SAP environment, you cannot work in a silo. Everybody has to work together for that system to work, which is good and bad. It's very hard, but once you understand how it works, I think it's a very well-structured product to drive that discipline, but also focus everybody on the same campfire, so to speak. And that's what we really see the digital boardroom doing for us. So as we build out our digital manufacturing insights, which is our tactical layer digital boardroom, so to speak, for our operations in our factories, at the staff layer, at the vice president level and the business unit layer, there's a lot of staff work up there that's marketing and things that are outside of the factory. They need to have a system that is the same campfire for them, one version of the truth. And ideally, if we do our job well, even on the front end with our hybris operations and then what we're doing in the factory, we can feed the live data out of our results right up into the digital boardroom and then connect KPIs eventually to financial results, as they always do. And that's sometime in a business where you get a gap. You have financial requirements that you need to meet. you have KPIs that tell you how you're running your business, but a lot of times there's a gap between direct connection between the results of different initiatives, say for instance quality and things like that, to a direct financial result. And that's always been elusive in the factory. So I really see this final connection getting made with a digital boardroom.
So no more spreadsheets, no more PowerPoints, no more printouts in boardroom meetings.
Right. One version of the truth. Oh, we talked about that this week. We had a workshop with all the factory leaders. And I said, what if you had one version of the truth? No more PowerPoints. How many meetings could you get away from that you just sit there to get an updated status and somebody spends 2 to 3 hours making sure the numbers line up? Once you get a live system, the number is the number. You may not like the number and you can do something to fix it, but it's out of the system and it's live, right? So I love the idea, no more PowerPoint, no more spreadsheets. Just open up the system and let's start talking about what we're doing to fix it, or how well we're doing.
Fantastic. And you mentioned a couple of seconds ago the digital manufacturing insights. What exactly is that? What's that doing for Caterpillar?
So that's been a 2-year journey working with SAP. We had one of our factories that just in North Little Rock that just really understood lean, and they codified it so well. But I mean, it was a mountain of spreadsheets, and that factory is one of our best running factories. And everywhere from the time that material hits the gate, the truck hits the gate, to the time it's unloaded, through the whole supply chain process in manufacturing, they have it down. And so we went there and mimicked what they were doing. It's been a long journey. We've learned a lot. We've had some failures, which is going to happen when you do these things. But DMI has come out of that. And we're looking forward to going live in the first quarter of next year with it. We'll be the first company. But what that will do is be our digital boardroom for manufacturing, one version of the truth. I can log into that, eventually once we get every one of our factories on it, and just see what we're doing and have that live data without anybody putting together spreadsheets anymore. And the thing about it is, you're going to get such better resolution when you're taking live confirmations out of an ERP system and using that for your build conformance and build sequence. And then everybody's codified the same way with the same lean doctrine. That's when you start winning, because you really know the truth is the truth.
And you can compare across factories?
Yes, that's the goal. Every factory. And like I said, this week we had a workshop with main factory leaders and really talked about, it was amazing mapping current state out with where everybody was at. We have 9 factories, 5 different ERP systems, and out of those 5 ERP systems, all of them, some of them are so not evolved to the level of our main factory in Athens that has the newest version of SAP and ME and MII and all that in a corporation. And it's really a challenge when you look at how do you take that many disparate capabilities and processes and start using mode 2 where you can to make up for it, and then have a mode 1 plan to get us onto S4 HANA.
Excellent. Something else you're also working on, because you've got so many projects going on, I don't know how you keep it all together, is vehicle insights. And you're using that, if I remember correctly, for tracking forklifts going around the plants. What's that about?
Yeah, that was that's another interesting co-innovation. When we saw Vehicle Insights, I immediately talked to Stefan Brand about that and said, this is an opportunity to do internal logistics. I'm not sure they ever intended to do that with it, but I think they're seeing the value of it. We are. Again, one of the things that when I think about what we're doing with Live Factory, one of our main visions is to converge man-machine method. And I think that's really what Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things is really there for, because you've got a physical asset, you got a person, and then you have a process. And in the past, you got a transactional process in SAP, and that's why I thought Vehicle Insights was important to be, because they know their internal workings inside of SAP. How do we merge those 3 things together and know, hey, this operator's supposed to move this amount of material this time to get the material to the line to flow it at the right rate, so we can do just-in-time logistics, and know that every day we're getting what we expect to get. But what we've seen, it's been amazing, because we've put sensors on our forklifts, and we know the amount of time they're moving, how long they're idle, where they're going, and we know what material is supposed to be moved with that forklift. Now we have an operator, and now the operator has clarity because they can see the transfer orders live and how they're doing. The leaders can see that and make better plans, and we're really seeing improved reduced outages of our material, but improved flows of our material also. And people are really enjoying it, because even between shifts, we're starting to see differences, and people are getting aligned on the process. And I think that's the key thing when you do merge a physical process with a transactional process. You really start getting clarity on what's really going on, and now you can reduce the variation in it. And that's really what we're trying to do with this: reduce the variation, and then we can reduce the amount of inventory that we have in our factories, and improve that just-in-time delivery to get more like automotive.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. And you're also using predictive maintenance.
Yeah, that's another thing that we looked at. And my background in the military, working maintaining combat systems, I'm really into process maintenance and reliability center maintenance. And I've seen, as a factory manager, what not having that visibility of what's going on with your equipment can do to you, because without condition-based monitoring, you're basically run to fail. And if you have long lead time items, which you usually do in CNC machines and weld robots, it can be very expensive. We recently had an outage for about 10 days in one of our constrained assets, and it really caused havoc. And not only did we miss, being able to build that product on that machine, but it also caused holes in our assembly line in the way we build, because of a mixed model line. And it's just devastating. So if we can predict a failure before it happens, obviously we can stop those failures and limit the impact to the organization by having that machine go down. We got a lot of work to do in that process maintenance area, but this is just the start. And I think if you can predict failures and then really go to condition-based maintenance, where you're out of periodic maintenance, you can reduce the period cost while improving the reliability and availability of the equipment.
Tremendous. And any other things that you're doing that I've missed touching on?
There's an interesting project we have with digital delivery tracking products at the end of our line. One of the things we did is we said, as we do these projects, we're going to use all the tools we already had paid for. And there's a lot of things like MII. We haven't really leveraged MII as well as we could have in our factories. So we're really trying to use that product at the lower level to fill in the operational piece. So we're building a structure with DMI and vehicle insights and those things sort of as a layered piece at the tactical layer, and then operationally. And then every place that we need an end on board or at the end of our line, and we have some RFID tracking on our product at the end of our line to keep track of it. And that RFID now keeps us going to make sure that we don't miss our ship dates. And in the past, we had to pay someone to go around and find the machines. And by putting a RFID sensor on top of it and a GPS sensor so we can track it inside and out while it's doing its final pre-delivery inspections, we've gotten much more efficient at reducing the amount of WIP at the end of the line, but also the people can see where the product is, and then they just, instead of having a coordinator finding where the product is, telling them where to go get it, they can see it and go get it themselves and move it through those final processes before we ship it. And that's going to improve our shipping performance and availability and reduce the amount of finished goods WIP that we have at the end of our line and before shipping. So we're excited about using, again, MII tools to do that.
It's hard to imagine that you'd be able to lose a big Caterpillar digger.
Yeah, it is hard. But when you have a couple of days, when you build 100 a day, and you got 2 days of WIP, you can lose them.
The other thing I seem to recall you talking about was empowering your retail organization. You don't own a lot of the places that sell your goods, but you want to make it easier for them to sell your goods. And you wanted also, if I remember correctly, you said you wanted your buyers to be able to go online on their phones and be able to buy Caterpillar gear. Is that still the aim?
Yes, that's part of our retail strategy down longer term. I mean, that's definitely a blue dot vision to get there, and it takes a lot to get there. But even then, we want to be able to provide that data all the way through that digital thread from the customer to the dealer, improve our dealer experience, availability experience, and also have our dealers help us stabilize, factory orders for them and improve that forecasting. A lot of times it's air gaps between us and our dealers and how much inventory they hold, and we're trying to smooth that out, and by offering the dealers a better experience working with us and doing factory orders and maintaining their inventory at first, and then eventually sales and like we said, we have to compete. We're out branded, or not out branded, but we're 8-to-1 difference between our dealers and other dealers. So we can't make up that brick and mortar by putting more dealers out there. It's just not going to happen. So in order to compete in our market with our competitors, we're going to need that digital channel through the Hybris platform.
So a bit like your employees, you need to make your dealers more productive as well.
Yes, the cost to serve for dealers is higher, and we have to get that cost out. And this is one way we're doing it, and it also benefits us. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's going to improve everybody's experience. I think when you think about these capabilities, you have to, as you're building the architecture, you got to think about all the personas in the value chain and what they need out of the value chain. And I think you get better outcomes when you look at it that way.
Okay. One other last thing I think that I just wanted to ask you about was you mentioned in Frankfurt wanting a common operating environment. I think that was the expression you used for your organization. Can you talk a bit about that? What you meant by that?
Yeah, that's one of the things, again, I learned from the military. You can move from ship to ship, different platforms. You learn a tactical display and environment and common view. And by doing that, now we're not spending time relearning something every time you go someplace. And I think that's what we're trying to do with the Fiori user interface, irrespective of whether it's Leonardo or it's S4, Mode 1, Mode 2, or even just using the Fiori app as we're doing for different things. We can start creating a very harmonized environment that allows people to quickly, the human-machine interface to really not be an issue. And I think that, when you start thinking about Industry 4.0 and what you're going to do, having all these options, and there's hundreds of them out there. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I get so many emails and calls, hey, look, we've got a great product. I'm sure you do. But I think there's a lot to be said for having that common operating environment. Once people get used to looking at a Fiori cube or how to drill down into it or how does it look, there's a lot of value in it. And digital boardroom works the same as DMI, that works the same as MII. They all start looking the same as ME. We're going to get better outputs. And now we're not spending time trying to figure out what we're looking at. We're spending time really driving our business.
Nice. So again, it's about making people more productive by them not having to learn new user interfaces because every user interface is standard.
Yep, that's absolutely our goal. It's a lofty one and it's hard, and you're making choices. But I think, again, when you architect something this big, you really have to think about that going forward, because we're doing pieces of it, but as we do small pieces to solve business problems, I'm also thinking about our overall architecture. How do I create that common operating environment? So for us to win.
Excellent. Marty, for anyone who's listening who might be thinking of going down a similar kind of road, who is a manufacturer or who wants to start a digital transformation initiative, what would be the single most important piece of advice you think you could give them?
Well, first, we don't use the word digital transformation in any of our projects because we've been digital since the 80s. So it's really not. It is technically digital, but if you say that, if that's how you're going to approach it, hey, we're going to do a digital transformation for our business, everybody's minds go directly to, it's an IT thing. It can't be an IT thing. It's got to be the business. And not that I don't need IT or have any issues, but I think that's kind of where we failed in some of our business systems and processes, is we've kind of just thrown it over the wall, so to speak, to IT. And I think that the manufacturing people and the functional people have to have their hands in it, and they have to own it. And that's the difference for us. We're looking at business transformation. How are you going to be able to meet these business requirements that we have for you factories? And now the functional people, like I said, again, we had a workshop this week, and we had manufacturing engineers, we had logistics people, we had supply chain people in this workshop, and they were the ones that were talking about what their requirements were, not technology. What do I want to do? In the future, I want to be able to do automated receipts, or I want to be able to do whatever. All right, let's translate that into systems, and now we can codify these things. And I think that's the difference. If you take that approach, you're going to be much more successful. And there's no turnkey, and there's nobody that can do this for you. If you think you can just go out to whatever vendor you want, you can go to the big vendors, anybody you want to go to and say, hey, I want to digitize my business. They'll do it for you, but be careful what you get, because you're probably not going to get the outcomes that you want. This is hard work. You got to get your hands in it, so to speak. It's a dirty job. But if you do it right, the outcomes are so much better because you actually spent the time with the functional people building it.
Excellent. Marty, that's been fantastic. Thanks a million for coming on the show today.
Yeah, glad to. Thanks a lot.